Welcome to the GTI Tours podcast. Join us as we go behind the scenes and discuss with trip leaders, guides, biblical scholars, and more to bring the land and the lessons of the Bible to life. Hello and welcome to the GTI Tours podcast. My name is Rich and I'm going to be your host today as we dive into the land and the lessons of the Bible, as we try to do each time we do the podcast. Now, this one's going to be quite fun because recently, this is new to GTI, you've heard us talk about it multiple times, we have been doing a Reformation style tour, going over to Europe basically and seeing sites that bring our Bible alive by stepping into our Christian history. And I have ran into multiple people over this summer as I've been traveling and speaking different places who have come up to me and said, Rich, this is so great. I'm so excited you guys are doing this. And then all of a sudden they go, but which one should I do? You guys are doing one to Germany and to Switzerland, and you're doing one that takes you to England and Scotland. And I said, yes, they're both amazing. And they said, what's it all about? And I said, you know what? That's a great question that we can dive into because I've got two amazing friends who are running these tours. And so I want to introduce them to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little debate here. Both of these guys sharing their opinions, their thoughts from the countries that they lead tours to. And maybe you'll walk out of this knowing a little bit more and hopefully interested in joining one of these tours, if not both of them at some point. So this should be fun. Both of these guys are guys who I love learning from. Their expertise is in an area that, again, my job is logistics. I'm trying to help put these things together, but learning from them and their heart for bringing people to these lands to be able to bring the Bible alive. So on the show today, we've got Dan Van Voris and we've got Adam Richardson. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
So let's just start really quick to give people a chance to get to know each of you. And we'll jump into this, what we're calling the debate of learning. It's going to be like speed dating. It's going to be very quick. A lot of questions, you guys answering them.
Yeah.
So Dan, why don't you start and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Dan Van Voris. I have a PhD in modern history. I'm a scholar in residence at a place called 1517 at 1517.org, where I have a daily podcast, the Christian History Almanac. I was a professor and a department chair at a university for 10 years, and now I get to tell stories in podcast form, and I get to take trips with GTI. I get to go to Germany and Switzerland, and I get to tell the stories that I tell on my podcast every morning, but I get to tell them in person, pointing to things, having coffee with you, answering questions. I am relatively new to the tour guide world, but it has been one of my favorite things that I've been able to do in the past couple of years. So we've done it before. We're going to do it twice this fall and then keep doing it. So hope you get a little maybe excited about the trip and join me.
Adam, why don't you join in here? Let us know a little bit about you.
Absolutely. That's great. So I'm Adam Richardson, and I am the equipping pastor at the Church of Sandhurst in Florence, South Carolina. And I grew up in the South, ended up going to Russia in the 90s when it opened up, and it has a long history there. So I learned to love history, working 20 years in missions in Russia, then ended up in England, did a PhD in history and early modern history, and then came back to use that on the ground for regular people, which I considered it not something I wanted to kind of dink around with because I wanted to intellectually doodle. But for me, it was a huge anchor for my faith to realize that the Christian faith didn't start in the 1950s with Billy Graham. That it actually we have a history, a lineage, we have ancient roots, and that is what I've learned to savor and why I love history is it connects me to my ancient roots. And so I think in our modern world we feel more and more rootless. As Mark said, he wanted to turn everything that's solid to liquid, and it seems like our digital world is doing that. And so I feel like that our ancient roots in the scriptures, and then through history, I love being able to trace that and enjoy that and savor that. And as Dan said, the stories that are real, it's real people that are having real struggles just like we do today. So that for me has been a big encouragement in my faith, and that's why I do what I do.
Both of these guys, amazing teachers, great historians, and they're going to help bring it alive. So what we're going to do now is we're going to debate this a little bit. It's going to be the Germany trip versus the England trip, and we are going to kind of play back and forth and hopefully give you a better understanding of what you could learn and why you should go on these trips. So it's going to be quick. They're not going to have a ton of time to answer each of these questions. They're going to have to just kind of give a point, and then we're going to move on to another one. We're going to go through multiple questions here. So if you're ready, Here we go.
Let's do
Here
it.
we go. Here we go. All right.
All right, we're gonna start with Adam first here, and this is gonna be broad, and we're gonna go broad, and we're gonna work our way down. But which is the better place to explore the connection of the Bible between like Bible times in the present, Germany or
Right.
England?
Well, I mean, clearly England is the choice because, in the diaspora in Acts, after the stoning of Stephen, it says the believers went all everywhere. And Tertullian in the year 200 wrote that there were already parts of Britain that Christ had conquered, which the Romans had not. So we know that Christianity was in Britain by the year 200. Of course, it's there now. So 1800 years of Christian history. And so really, and of course, our Pilgrim Fathers coming here from there. So our faith is rooted in the British faith. And so you see it all the way from the Roman times, then to the Anglo-Saxons, to the Vikings, to the Normans, then to the Tudors and the royal family. It comes all the way through, and you can trace everything straight through to now.
Whew. All right, Dan, you're up.
I mean,
Germany.
sure, we can do the whole, Holy Grail thing. We can go back to, we think they were there in the 200s, but I like to think
Right.
quantity over quality.
Okay.
Sure, we've got a number of years in England, but when we're talking about with the Holy Roman Empire, we're talking about post-Rome. I mean, the story of the West is what's happening there in the empire, in the German lands. And so for a real quality connection, that's the one we follow. And for most of this, I should say, I lived in Scotland for 3 years. I love the UK and the British Isles, and you should definitely do that. I'm just saying they're 1B to Germany and Switzerland's 1A when it comes to real meat connecting us to our church's past.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, big words starting right here. We're already off
strong.
to a flying start. The next one's going to be just as controversial. Which country has a greater global influence on our Christian heritage? So, Dan, let's start with you, with Germany.
I don't mean to be cliche, but especially for us in the modern world, Luther is the epicenter. And so to go anywhere post 1517, to go anywhere post Reformation, to pretend that Luther isn't at the center of it, or at least the sort of first mover in a way, is some historical malpractice. So while I know Adam's going to give us some great answers, the answer is that, of course, the German lands have had the greater historical impact.
All right, Adam.
Yes, well, there's no question that Luther helped, the as it were, the Protestant Reformation break away from Rome and created another branch on the Christian tree, for sure. But following Luther, the British Empire spanned the entire globe, and at the time was in leading Europe in the slave trade, for example, and it was the British Christian evangelical movement in the 1800s that helped abolish the global slave trade in the British Empire. So there's no doubt that Luther started it. But then, and they also gave us the King James Bible, the Bible in English, the Bible Society, the World Bible Society, everything out of Britain. And so I would say that they definitely took what Luther did and they gave the world the scriptures, freedom from slavery, and many other of our modern causes and activists that we would all be a part of even today.
All right, we're going to dive into another question here. Both of those answers make me want to go. That's pretty great. Which country features more iconic landmarks and must-see historical sites? Because we are a travel company, we're going to go see places. So, Adam, we'll start with you.
Man, it is. I mean, England and Scotland, bring it. Oxford, it's such a famous view there. And of course, amazing things happening there between the burning at the stake. And then, of course, the Oxford with the Inklings. We're going to do the Lewis and the Tolkien tour and see where they lived and worked and fought and made up and wrote their books. But then, of course, London, I mean, incredible. Cambridge, amazing. We'll be at the Round Church that was founded in 1180. Okay. And the church I attended when I lived there was an offshoot from that church. So the church I went to was planted by a church from 1180. So it's an incredible, of course, Scotland, the Royal Mile, the castles, the manor homes, the Isles, the monasteries, Holy Island, Lindisfarne. Google it right now. It's going to be amazing.
All right, Dan, your turn.
I certainly don't disagree that there are beautiful, wonderful things in England and Scotland that came from what was already taking place and happening on the mainland, on the continent. And so this one is a toss-up in a way until you go to your Google box and you type in Neuschwanstein or
Yes, yes.
Disney Castle, Germany. Just put that in there.
I did do the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, do the mixed with a little Sound of Music. I'm just saying, I love England and Scotland, but
Yeah.
you look at some of these things we're going to, Lake Geneva.
Yeah.
And so, boy, I like I said, I love the UK, but the
Mhm.
Germany, Switzerland trip, going from Berlin and the history there, that's very modern, down through Saxony and into Switzerland.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch to see. And so I think you should definitely go on Adam's trip. I definitely think you should after you go on my trip to get the first part of the story, and then you fill that in. So I just, a suggestion.
All right, guys, which country provides a more culturally immersive experience? Where are you going to really get to experience the culture of the modern day country that we're going to? And we'll be back at Dan again to start this one off.
I mean, this is another one. A lot of them are toss-ups, but this one is clearly a winner for the Germany-Switzerland trip. As if you're coming with GTI, you're probably a native English speaker. And so just by being in another country with people speaking other languages, the foreign element is not as far as, say, if we were going to India or the Far East, but we are clicking up the foreign element for the Western traveler. And so I think in terms of an immersive experience, when all of a sudden people are speaking a different language, there's a level of excitement and immersion there. Of course, at GTI, we take great care of you. We have translators. You will never be lost or scared, but you will have that immersive bit.
And you might just see some lederhosen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, Adam, what are your thoughts?
I can totally see what Dan's saying, and I agree. GTI, I've been on several of their trips, and they're amazing. And they really get you. They get you on the ground and boots on the ground, which is why I came back. We're only spending 1 or 2 days in London. We're going to spend most of our time out in the villages, and by villages, the cities again, the Oxfords, the Cambridges, the Woolsthorpe Manor, where Sir Isaac Newton grew up. You would miss it if you blinked. But then we're going to stop and see where the man of the millennium did his work. And so I think if you want to come to England, come to the Eagle Pub in Cambridge and experience the seat, the table where Watson and Crick announced we have cracked the DNA code, and you can and sit at that table and have a meat pie and enjoy it. And also the British breakfasts are incredible. I think that may be later on, but I'm going to hold off on that. But the villages, the highways, the byways are gorgeous in the Greenland.
Right, Adam, you brought it up, so we're just going to go with this because we do love going on trips and eating food.
Yes.
It is one of the
Yes.
great things, and especially this particular set of trips going to Europe, is that we let you pick your place to eat lunch each day because there are so many great places to eat. So which country offers more flavorful and satisfying culinary options? Adam, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to make a very small concession. Dan, don't take advantage of me here, but there are a lot of German beers offered in England, so you don't have to go to Germany for that. But well, I do love the pub food there. Like I said, the breakfasts are really the hot breakfasts are to kill for. The English breakfast, the plates are full, they're hot, sausages, eggs, the whole gambit. Then, of course, the countryside. You're going to find markets, and you're going to find local dives, cafes, and they are fantastic. So I highly recommend coming to England to see that. And I mean, in the hotels, you'll be fine. But really, we're going to be out in the countryside where the people will take pride in it.
So when I travel on my own, when I take my family on vacation, one of the first things we think is, what are we eating? And the food experience takes precedence. I lived in Scotland for 3 years. I love the Scottish. I ate plenty of good food, but not a lot of it. The UK has a reputation for bad food and bad teeth. And while neither of them are completely fair, really, when it comes to the sausages, the wurst, when it comes to the variety of foods and drink in Germany and Switzerland, I mean, this is Augustus Gloop territory, right? I mean, this is the finest of sweets, the finest of meats. It's great because we walk a lot, so I didn't gain that much weight. But I sometimes I can gain, like, how good was a vacation by how much weight could I gain?
Right.
And I'm going to say Germany, Switzerland, it's up there.
Yeah, it's going to be strong.
It'll be a highlight for sure on either one of these trips. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things is trying new food, trying the local cuisine, and getting a chance to be there, eating it with the locals. Now,
Yeah.
guys, I'm going to turn the corner here a little bit, and I'm going to go a little bit like kind of deeper into some specific people who are kind of mainstays on these trips. And so the question is going to be, who influenced the world more? So, Dan, for you, it's going to be Martin Luther, and then for Adam, it's going to be you with William Wilberforce. So, Dan, why don't you start with Luther?
Luther is maybe the most fascinating character in modern history. And I say this as one who's afraid of hyperbole and who thinks that Luther sometimes can be overrated, that sometimes the sins of Luther are passed over, or we think Luther is just for the Lutherans. He is a fascinating character who is so complex and is aware of his own sin, that not only is studying Luther himself a great picture and image of the Christian life and of the highs and the lows, but it is Luther who kicks off the Protestant Reformation. If it wasn't Luther, God could have raised up anybody, but he raised up Luther. And so when it comes to where does this renewal movement start that we celebrate in the Protestant church, it starts with Luther. And I love so many people who come after him. And like I said, I'm not going to idolize Luther because he's got problems. But he is number one when it comes to the guy who really shook the world. And then, of course, all the faithful Christians after him. But I'm going to say Luther. It's hard for me as a historian to not say modern world, especially the modern church, Luther's number one.
All right, Adam, you're up.
There is no doubt. I cannot dispute a word of that. That Luther has a global impact and ongoing legacy in all of all of our Christian lives, and has given us so much, not just to the Lutherans, but to the courage that he showed. Um, 100 years later, 200 years later, we have had the Protestant Reformation had a chance to blossom, to grow, to spread, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't just this sort of Neoplatonic, a new spiritual view. It was bumping up against real world problems like housing and child labor and the poor and then of course slavery. And so someone like William Wilberforce comes along and he is completely queued up to just live his best life. He is rich, he's powerful, he could have just done that every day. And what's the weekend? But instead, he laid all that aside and he said, I'm going to attack basically the worst thing in our world, and that is human trafficking and slavery. And for 20 years, he fought it and basically on his deathbed defeated it. And a globe of slaves were freed. And then, of course, that spread to our nation, which followed 20 years later. And so to see that and the impact of not just believing something that's true, but then applying it in real life to slavery, labor, economics, etc. Hugely impactful. So it's hard not to go with a Wilberforce or even basically the 19th century English evangelicals.
Oh man, can you feel it, folks? Can you feel it? Like I'm telling you right now, both of these trips are going to dig into things that you did not know were so important to your faith today. I'm telling you this. All right, guys, I'm going to get a little bit. I'm going to go down a little darker side here. And the question here is because this is what I love about both of you as historians and as teachers is that you right from the start discuss the fact that like not everyone's perfect and like that we're not going to just tell this squeaky clean like shiny story. But
Yeah.
even talking into the modern side of it, uh, how have like people from England or from Germany caused harm to the Christian faith of the world? And so these can be somebody who's modern, or it can be somebody who's in the past. So we'll start with you, Adam, and then work our way over to Dan.
Well, and then Dan will have many of these examples, but England is full of paradoxes. So, in 1537, King Henry VIII ordered essentially the murder of the man who translated the Bible, and then a year later is ordering it to be put in all of the churches. And so, what is happening? Why is he a reformer? Is he not a reformer? Is he an angel? Is he a demon? Then you have Bloody Mary, who, his daughter, who was probably genuinely, and Dan, you may have a view on this, but was probably the most devout royal of the British royal houses. The most devout person was Mary, the Catholic, but unfortunately, she lived in a time where they were threatened by Protestants and therefore chose to kill them, and therefore earning the name Bloody Mary. So there's so many of these odd paradoxes to our faith, and it makes you wrestle with what's really right and good is, and we as we explore these stories and unpack them, they're not neat, they're not clean. William Wilberforce had his rough edges too. Spurgeon, whom we all love and admire, suffered many bouts of depression and had really dark seasons in his life. And so, what do you do with that? And so, to unpack those things and just realize these are real people with real problems who are normal like us. They're not, the saints weren't angels. They were redeemed sinners, and they were then and they are now. And so, I think that for me has been really helpful.
Dan, what do you think?
So I'm looking at this list of questions, and it says, dark side, which country has brought more harm? And immediately, as a German historian, I go, oh no, okay, I'm not going to win this one. This is the one we lose. But let me tell you something about this trip. We start in Berlin. We start in Berlin for a lot of reasons, but because we start in Berlin, we are struck right in the face, right when we get to Germany, with the horrible stain of the mid 20th century and what the Third Reich did. Mm-hmm. And we are going to talk about, Luther and the Bible and books, and then book burning. We're going to see, as Adam's talking about, these paradoxes and the freedom of the gospel that turns into a sort of racist villainy. Mm-hmm. We're going to see the Cold War, where the wall literally split people, where Christianity was outlawed. I mean, it is some dark stuff. Mm-hmm. If we have the opportunity, as we did last time, we go to a concentration camp. And I'll tell you, in my own life, there have probably been nothing stronger, more spiritually dark, but then also powerfully affirming than going to these dark, dark places. And so when it comes to harm for the rest of the world, the German historian says, mea culpa, but can I show you the answer? Can I show you the good news I found out of that really bad news? And so that's what we'll be seeing on our trip.
Yeah, I can personally speak just to the side of getting to step into this area that we call even the consequences of ideas. Like, we're going to look at ideas that change the world, and we're going to look at ideas that brought humanity to its lowest place as well. So,
and Rich, I'd love to say one more thing about that. Something Dan said reminded me that I would hope if people are wrestling with their faith and wondering, is this really true, or is there, what about the dark side of Christians, or even the dark side of God as they might perceive it, who's let a lot of terrible things happen, or let Christians do terrible things. One of the reasons I went to England and did my PhD studies was I wanted to know, did the Bible have did Christianity have skeletons in the closet that the people up there were hiding, and that the college professors that all our kids are going to really knew about? And what I understood was that, when you hear something like the Bible has 500,000 discrepancies, is that really true? And then when I was in Cambridge and I'm talking to these Bible scholars who knew all of the stuff, knew all the translations, all the concerns, and still believe, because they're like, you know what, really, here's the issue. Yeah, there's some differences, but if I got up in front of 1,000 people and I read a letter, probably not one single person would write it just like I said it. But if you put all the copies together, you could reproduce the original. And when I understood it in these kind of ways, it just helped me through all of the questions of my faith. And so I think the history, going through and looking at an honest look at the history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, really helps us. The truth is on our side here, but we need to work through the truth with people who know the whole story and not just the part of their agenda they're trying to promote. That's what history did for me. That's what England did for me. And I bet that's also true in Germany.
Again, folks, like you're seeing, this is why you got to get on this trip. This is why this is exciting, and why GTI is moving from the Bible lands to the places where the Bible takes root in our modern culture and what we believe today. So these are super important. I want to bring this question in, and because we're getting to tell stories on these trips, and you guys are both really great storytellers. Who is one kind of an unsung hero that we're going to meet along the way? Like somebody who most people maybe have never heard about. I mean, we've heard of Wilberforce, we've heard of Luther, but like who is somebody from each of these places we're going to visit who we're going to come in contact with that maybe you didn't that people wouldn't have known about. So, Dan, let's start with you on this one.
This is one of my favorite things as a historian, as someone that tells the stories of people on a daily basis. I love the big stories and introducing you to the characters you've heard about, but I love introducing you to these characters that are lesser known.
Yeah.
And so the one that if you're not embedded in early modern Reformation studies, you probably don't know the name Lucas Cranach. Lucas Cranach, there's an elder and there's a younger, and they live on the street with Melanchthon and Luther. Their homes are minutes away from each other. And I make the argument that if it's not for Cranach, the painter, the ideas of Melanchthon and Luther don't get out the way they do. And so while we have the preachers and the intellectuals and the people who are thinking these big ideas, I need the people who help get these big ideas from the pulpits, from the big brains, into the individuals. And so often this is done through painting, through pictures. And Cranach takes the Reformation and he puts it in pictures. And so we're going to meet him. We're going to go to his studio and see where he was putting Reformation and Christian ideas to a mostly illiterate people. And then as we travel through the countryside, through Germany and Switzerland, as we stop in churches, we're going to be looking at the pictures, the paintings, the Bible for these mostly illiterate people. And taking a different view or a different picture on how we learn theology than the modern. And that's always, people always respond well to that. And I love looking at those things and learning the gospel in picture.
All right, Adam.
Gosh, this is so hard because, like with Dan, I love these stories too of these people that we stand on their shoulders, but we don't know who they are. And I'm gonna have to try to make this tight because I want to squeeze in two people. One is Helen Roseveare, the missionary. You've probably never heard of her, but she went to Africa early on. She was in Oxford as a student. She came to faith in Christ in a dark moment, realized that she had no hope as a doctor in anything because she knew everything about the body, but nothing about life and eternity. So she turned her life over to Christ as a college student, continued to be a doctor, went to Africa, and was in a remote area, attacked by a tribe, being kicked and violated and harmed. And in that moment, she prayed like, Lord, why are you allowing this to happen? These people are not worth it. And she felt the Lord with her in that moment say to her, these people may not be worth it to you, Helen, but am I worth it? Am I worth it? I've walked the path. I gave my life. If you will give yours, don't give it for them, give it for me. And she said that changed everything. And she went back to England, got healed, and went back to that tribe, and they came to faith. Just amazing. Helen Roseveare. A second person we've all heard of, but don't know why he matters. Sir Isaac Newton, one of the greatest physicist of the second millennium. We're going to be at his residence. The reason he matters so much is not that he discovered things like gravity and calculus and wonderful things, but the reason he matters is that he didn't do his science in spite of his faith. He did his science because of his faith. He understood that God had coded amazing things in his creation, and he assumed that there was a God of order who had created order into his world. It is the king's it is the Lord's matter to conceal it, and it is the king's matter to discover it. And he was there to discover the wisdom God had put into his world. And so he used his science to unpack what God, the beauties, the glories, the wonders, the mysteries that God had put into his creation. And so I love that. And when you look at the pile of writings he had, Isaac Newton's writings in science and Isaac Newton's writings in theology, and the theology is a greater pile. It's a bigger pile because he knew that God was behind all of it, and that was what drove his science. So I love these stories that remind me of just the power of God behind everything.
And this is why these trips are so good. And I'm just going to say this right now because I know these guys really well. Is that when you come on a trip like this, they are going to unpack stories like this the entire trip. The entire every day is going to be a story about somebody you've probably never heard of and why it matters today, what they've done. And then there'll be stories of people that we don't know their names, but the impact that we still see today. And that for me is why I love doing this. And you're going to be connected to a group of people who have lived out their faith, and hopefully it's going to help you live out yours even more. So going to be a ton of fun. Couple last questions because we just want to have some fun now again with the country a little bit. Let's play the game of hidden gems. Which country has a hidden gem, something that no one knows about, but we're going to show it to him. So, Adam, we'll start with you.
All right, so in Cambridge, there's a bookstore, G. David's Bookstore, and it has antiquarian books. And maybe not everybody's into antiquarian writings and whatever, but just in case you are, I got a 1609 Geneva Bible there. It was a Father's Day gift one year. Also, they have like folio pages. I love, this is the 1640 King James Bible, and it has the Gothic print. And I personally loved the story of David and Goliath in 1 Samuel 17. So I picked out the leaf from 1 Samuel 17 and multiple leaves. The paraphrase of Erasmus in the 1500s, I'm thinking it was 1545. Here it is, paraphrase of Erasmus. A sheet. There's the original printing, a first edition. And so come with me to G. David's Bookstore, pick you out an old book or some old leaves from old books, and just look through 5 centuries of print and have fun.
It does sound fun.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
So for me, hidden gems, yeah, it's the bookstores, it's the castles, it's the basements. Oftentimes for me, it's the food. We all have
Yes.
different tastes. And so as someone who has lived over there before, who has spent time over there, one of my favorite things to do is to get to know you and have you say, hey,
Mhm.
I got this free time, because we have free time in the middle of the days. And one of the things I got to do on the last trip, and I get to continue to do, is tailor these hidden gem moments for you. And so getting to know, whether it's on the Zoom hangouts beforehand or on, the hotel when we
Yeah,
get there,
for sure.
talk to me and tell me that you love old books, or that you love stained glass, or that you love any kind of cuisine. And one of my favorite things is seeking that stuff out with you. So there are
Mhm.
so many, and I look forward to finding them with you.
Yeah,
And
that
you
is a
don't have
great.
to go to Germany for that. You can come to England for that too. Because I totally agree. That because you're right. The stained glass, the books, the food, the manners, the walks, the high. I mean, you
There's,
get
and I know this is true for both of us.
yeah,
The good thing is there's too much to see on one trip. And
yeah.
so what we get
That's
to
right.
do is we get to
Right.
say, here are all these cool things.
That's right.
And I mean, I'll just say, personal experience with GTI, you see so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it makes it so much worth it. I saw more on a 10-day, 12-day trip with GTI than I had in like
Yeah.
2 years as a student, just because it is
Yeah.
so deliberate. And we are
Yeah.
going here, and having guides along, and not just, myself, but we bring local guides as well. And
That's
they're
right.
super helpful too.
Yeah.
I found the same thing when I went to Germany on this last trip when we were over there. Was I desired to see a little bit more of World War II Holocaust stuff, and so I was directed to some places that I wanted to see or didn't know I wanted to see, and got a
Yeah.
chance to go see, to kind of fill
Yeah.
in those spots. But I remember one. This one was by accident. We stopped for lunch one day, and I look over and I go, "Oh, that's the zoo station from my U2 zoo station,
From Octoon
out
Baby.
Altoon Baby."
Yeah.
So I got to do a hidden gem that I didn't even know that I was looking for. I just walked over and I was like, "This is what the song's about. Is this place?" So it's fun things like that that kind of happen as you're going. Guys, I'm gonna leave you with a couple last questions, and these ones are fun because they're a little bit more open ended. Going to give you a little bit more to play with, but top 2 or 3 reasons to go on your trip, like top 2 or 3 reasons to join the trip that you guys are running. So again, Dan's running a trip to Germany into Switzerland, and Adam's running a trip that's going to go to England and then up into Scotland. So Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think what comes to my mind is, and why we did this trip, is to number one, connect the dots. But when it, beyond Israel, what would really be significant, not just interesting, but significant for us to see, understand, grasp, to touch with our own eyes and hands. So for me, it was to connect the dots between Bible times and our times, and to really again to give our modern faith ancient roots. I think secondly, to bolster your faith, to see, we will see actual biblical artifacts in the British Museum, thanks to all of those 1800, 19th century explorers that are and archaeologists that brought them back, and they're still looking at them, and that we'll get to see those artifacts. So I think to strengthen your faith with the biblical artifacts, as well as the biblical documents that we'll talk through in Cambridge. And then I think finally, just to stir the wonder, in some ways, like Dan said, with the castles of Germany, but to stir the wonder, to see a monastery from 635 that was started by monks, uh, Irish monks who came over to Scotland, called over by the Anglo-Saxon kings to start a monastery, and to realize that there has been a worship service going on here since 635, and we actually, Lord willing, we have it on the itinerary to participate in evensong at York Minster Cathedral, which is a worship service that has been continuously running for over 1,000 years. And if that doesn't stir your heart, then go to Germany after England. Yeah, but just to connect the dots, to bolster your faith and to stir your wonder. I feel like that's what it does for me, and I'm hoping that will happen for others as well.
All right, Dan.
I mean, I love those answers. There are similarly great things. Yes, this is a kind of Reformation tour, but what I love about it is that we go back into the Middle Ages and
Yeah,
we come up all the way to the present age and the World
yeah,
Wars and the Cold War. So it is
yeah,
really comprehensive.
yeah.
Secondly, I have spent a lot of time with Lutherans. And there are Lutherans who think Luther is for the Lutherans. And then I spend time with my Reformed friends, and they think that Calvin is for the Calvinists. And
Yeah.
I'm here as the historian to say, stop it. Luther is for everyone. Calvin is for everyone. Zwingli is for everyone, even the Anabaptists. Even the Catholic response is important. And
Mhm.
so this is an ecumenical trip for any kind of Christian, because we're going to see all of the different branches, all the different stuff that we see today in our modern denominations. We're going to see the root of it and where it came from and where they dialogue and where they get along and where they don't get along. And you're going to do so with Christians who aren't necessarily your exact kind of Christian. I
Yeah,
get it. We worship in our own churches for a reason, but I'm always encouraging people, whenever you can get out amongst other Christians
yeah.
in other contexts where you can talk about your similarities and differences, do that. And this trip is made for that. So the breadth of reformers. I mean, if you look at a map, going from Berlin to Geneva is awesome. I mean, to
Mhm.
get to cover that much space.
Yeah.
Um, and then finally, it's, especially for us English speakers, there is a blend of foreign and familiar, which I
Mhm.
think you'll really enjoy.
Mhm.
The sort of being jarred by not understanding everything is okay. We're going to walk you through that, and it's going to seem foreign, and then it's going to start to seem familiar, because these are going to be Christians just like us, experiencing and living out their faiths in Europe in the past. So, Adam, your answers are fantastic. And if anyone said, I'm going to go on Adam's first, go for it. Just make sure you're coming on mine second. And I hope you do it the other way, because I think both of these trips are just just such great
Yeah.
places. So
Yeah, well, and there's a pub in Cambridge that they called Little Geneva because the reformers would meet there and discuss the ideas from the continent. So there's like you say,
yeah, the
it's
direct
all
connection from
interconnected.
Geneva to Scotland to America is something that we'll be pointing out too on
There you
both
go.
trips. So,
Yes, exactly, precisely.
Let's finish with this last question, because this is one that's going to get a little bit more personal for you. And you both have been to these places. You both have taught in these places. But my question for you is how has the places that we're going to go on your individual tours, how has that changed and impacted your life? How's that impacted you? Because if it's not personal, then what's the point? So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that? So we'll start with you, Dan.
I moved to Scotland when I was 22 years old. And then by the time I was 23, I was in Germany and I was doing master's and PhD work. I was also a relatively new Christian. I'd just been baptized when I was 19 years old. And so I was trying to figure out where is my own faith? Where is my interest in history and faith? Um, and and it was foreign. It was scary. It was
Mhm.
big. These things that I'd come to faith at Irvine Presbyterian Church, where I was baptized, and I knew the churches in my area, and now all of a sudden the church was bigger and scarier, and there were things that weren't very comfortable. Um, and through diving into my history and the breadth and the scariness sometimes and the unknown things, my faith was starting to build, and so I was becoming a historian of the church, but I was also becoming a great lover of the church. And so that's how I think these two things have come together for me. And I have very little interest in teaching you about the church if you just want to know about it. If you want to love it, then I really want to be with you, because the history has helped me to love it. And I want to show you these places and help you to love it and know it as well.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Adam.
And I can affirm that. And I kind of want to go on Dan's trip because I know so many people, and I deal with this less, but so many people have church hurt, right? And I think a lot of it goes back to roots that things that were embedded in the way it began, during the Reformation, and to be able to talk through those hurts, to talk through those challenges of to live above with saints we love, oh, that will be glory, to live below with saints we know. Now that's another story, and but to go back to our roots and to experience it in the hands of a really of a thoughtful intellectual who's gone through it, like Dan, I think would be a really incredible and faith building experience to help you deal with those things. And for me, in England, I think it was less about kind of wrestling with my church concerns and more about my own personal faith. Like, was the Bible really true? And I'd staked everything on it, and the people that raised me in the faith from in my childhood and teen years were well-meaning, loved the Lord, but didn't. I felt like that my questions were kind of outstripping their simple answers, and I was hungry to really know. When I was hearing the dark things from the new atheists and others, but I wasn't. I felt like it was an unfair fight. Like, I felt like we weren't really answering their questions, and so I really needed to know. And so when I went to England, I went there to study it, to prove it or disprove it. And I felt like that God really showed me that it's not as neat and tidy as we all wish it was, but it's really true. And there are some things we have to wrestle with. Yes, in the church, yes, in the documents, but I was very much confirmed at an intellectual level that you can bring your questions to God, and He's not just going to give you a pat cliche answer, but He'll walk you through that. And there is a path forward that's intellectually, historically, emotionally satisfying. And for me, that was really important. And we will walk that path in England. We will wrestle with those questions.
As we conclude this, I hope you're getting a chance to see, with everything that GTI does, our whole desire is to bring the Bible alive. It's to help you understand God, help you understand your place of where you're at, help you understand how to live for Him. And we get a chance to do that on all of these trips. And the same thought that we've put into our Israel trips, into our Egypt, our Turkey, our Greece, our Rome, Saudi Arabia, you name it, all the trips we run, the same care and thought has gone into these trips here. And people want to go to Europe. They want to go to these places because they're beautiful. The food's great. It's one of those things that are kind of a bucket list item to go do. And we agree. They are bucket list items. You should do it. But you should do it going with a group that is there so you can understand your faith better. And that is going to happen with these guys. These guys are going to do that. You're going to get to have all these great experiences too, but you're going to come back knowing your Bible better and hopefully more in love with Jesus as you do that. So,
Amen.
Guys, thanks so much for your time. Like, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Richard.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So friends, until the next podcast, take care, and we hope to see you on the next Germany or England trip that we'll be doing, because as you can see, it would be a great experience and a lot of fun. So until the next podcast, take care, my friends. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. For more information on upcoming GTI study tours, please find us on the web at www.gtitours.org.